and I'll see an open house sign on a commercial building. I'll take a picture of it. I'll email that person, call them, say, hey, I saw your listing. I'm a loan person. Want to get coffee?
Hey guys, I got Chris Piro from Searchlight Lending here today, and he's a super energetic guy. So fair warning right out of the gate. But you're gonna hear a bunch of cool stuff. So one of them is, and I love this quote: "Every no is closer to a yes." And that mentality got him really far because he did a lot of cold calling in his early years, and thick skin, right? That's what you get. And you got to understand that every no is closer to a yes. And that's how you succeed in business. You're going to hear a lot about that. You're going to hear how he sold candy, and I did too, in the 7th grade for a little extra change. So an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur all the way from the beginning. He traveled for 18 months and took time off work after the 2008 financial crisis. Let's see, 10% better than the other person. So I love that quote because a lot of times we think we have to be so much better than somebody else or so much better at our trade than somebody else. And the fact is only 10% is all you really need to beat out your competition. It's not even that hard, 10%. And a lot of it is really just showing up, right? Just answering your call and doing what you say you're going to do. And it's that simple. And his favorite quote was, discipline is freedom, from Jocko. And I love that one too, because you're going to hear a lot about how he structures his day and how his routine is really how he functions. Without his routine, he can't do it, right? So I think every successful person we've had on this podcast is really big about their routine. And so hope you guys like this show as much as I did. Hey, everybody, this is Dino at The Way Podcast, and we are here to equip, educate, and empower you from the absolute best in the business. And today I got Chris Piro here with me from Searchlight Lending, and he's kind of you'll actually meet him, so I won't even give you my opinion of him just yet. But he's pretty aggressive. Like you'll notice just in his voice, he's very aggressive. He's a go-getter. Obviously, he's done a boatload of business. So I really want to learn from him. Want you guys to all learn from him. So Chris, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Dino. Appreciate it. It's nice to be in Orange County. Been enjoying the sights and the surf, and the family having a good time. Brought them all down for the road trip.
Yeah. So where are you guys from?
I'm from San Jose, born and raised. I've been all over. I went to UC Riverside for college. I moved to SF for 11 years. So that's where I cut my chops in the retail world. And then, longer story, lived in Marin for 9 years, which is why my corporate address is still San Rafael. And then we did the COVID move. That'll be a fun story to tell, but we did the COVID move to the beach. So now I currently live in Capitola, which is near Santa Cruz. But we have offices in the South Bay, North Bay, Bay Area, and then about 7 other states. So we're all over the place.
So you can just say yes to this, but so you drove all the way down here, flew all the way down here just to be on my podcast.
Yes.
There we go. All right. So first question, who are you today, both personally and professionally?
So personally, I'm a family man. I have kids, a wife, a dog, the whole shebang. And, I say, what's the reason you work, or the one thing that gets you up in the morning, is my family. So I guess that's who I am. It's good to provide, give them what they want, their opportunities, whatever their sports or hobbies are. So I like to include them and involve them, hence bringing them down on this road trip. Can't leave them for 8 days anyway. So that's me personally. Business professional. I'm a mortgage broker. So, sometimes it still has a bad connotation. I like to say I'm in real estate finance, and I'm a solution maker. So I don't sell anything. People need money, and I'm a resource for getting them money for projects or real estate or investment, development, etc.
Yeah. And you own the company. But just like all of us, you started as a loan officer. So let's go back to day one. Why the mortgage business? How, why, when, where?
Well, it's a funny story, and this kind of goes into my personal side as well, is, I went to a UC, and 2 years into my UC career, I was actually got into I started biomed and said, I don't want to be in the library all weekend. And then got into business admin, just had a good time, was doing well in business. I've always been kind of in sales, whether I'm selling candy at school or starting a lemonade stand or a farm stand. Just, I guess, business is my background. My grandfather and my uncle were self-employed business owners. So maybe it's just in the genes. And when it comes down to it, I actually really want to be a chef. Don't ask me why. And 2 years into college, I said, I'm dropping out. I want to go to Lake Cardon Bleu in San Francisco. And of course, my parents said, heck no, we're paying for a UC education. You got to finish your degree. So finished my degree, had a great time. I actually studied abroad, had great experiences, had a good network, made friends. I'm actually seeing one after this. And yeah, so after the 4 years college degree, I went back to culinary school, got accepted, and yeah, I was going to be a chef.
Did you finish that whole training?
So funny story on that. That was, I don't know, Thursday or Friday. And then Saturday is a job fair at a local hotel. And it was a mortgage boom around 2002 and a half, 2003. And, clean cut, college grad in a suit walked in and HSBC was there. And it was almost like it was in a hotel. So it was like, there's a bed there and a desk. And they said, well, here's an offer. Here's 180,000 a year plus bonus. And when I was like 22 at that time. And I said, forget flipping burgers. I'm going to get into mortgage. And I backed out of school that Monday and started my mortgage career that Monday.
So your first job in mortgage was 180 grand salary?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's a first. Mine was zero. Mine was zero. And here's a phone book and a phone. And if you close a few deals, we'll give you a paycheck.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, a lot of people went from, wholesale brokerage to retail. I was one of the few people that actually, my background was in retail. So some small banks you maybe heard of, HSBC, I worked at Wells Fargo for a while, JP Morgan, before they came to the West Coast. Had a little stint at WAMU, which I don't know what happened to WAMU, but I haven't heard about them in a bit. And yeah, so my first 8-9 years were all in retail banking.
Just to poke a little fun, you hardly seem like a corporate guy. You got tattoos. You love to do everything outside, and I just can't picture you in a suit in an office.
Yeah,
living in the corporate world.
I definitely didn't fit the mold. I used to wear my rainbows, my flip flops into the office, and I wasn't a good fit. And that kind of goes into why I started my own shop. I'm not an 8 to 5 guy. It was nice having leads fall from the sky. I was assigned bank branches. And, in those days, it was pretty easy to get loans, especially with a bank name behind you. I mean, I was Platinum Club, Top 100 Wells Fargo. Back when banks spent money, I mean, they flew me to Vegas to see Elton John for a private concert. Like, you can't do that anymore. And it doesn't look good. So, but yeah, I used to wear flip-flops in the office. And I don't think my management liked it. I used to skip meetings. And yeah, that's why I should have been self-employed in the first place.
So before we get to how you got there, I mean, right out of the gate, I guess you're making pretty good money, which is incredible, but you still have to learn the trade. How did you do your first year? What happened?
It was interesting. So I worked for a subprime offshoot of HSBC to start, household finance. Maybe some people heard of them. And I really cut my teeth just on cold calling. And it was a terrible intro. They used to send out the $2,600 personal loan offers. And I made 200, 300 cold calls a day. And the intro was, hey, we gave you an offer in the mail. Did you get it? And if they said yes, great. Let's talk about the offer. They said no, great. I'm calling to you, give you the offer that you didn't receive. And, just having a thick skin, making the calls, getting used to people saying no, and just moving on. I think in this business, you need, every no is closer to a yes. And I worked with a good team. My friend that sat next to me, he's telling me these sales skills, like, don't even talk about the offer. He used to say, hey, the person said, I don't want to talk to you. He's like, I'm offering free puppies or I'm giving away pie, just like break the ice. And, just being able to have the confidence of not really caring the outcome, really, like I said, gives you a thick skin to be able to get in front of clients and do like I am out of the box stuff and talking to billionaires and investors at this point.
And I guess it would have been a little bit easier than the typical cold caller just because you're calling from the bank. And were these people that were already clients of the bank?
At that time, no, those were cold.
Oh, okay.
Not until I moved up in HSBC. And then funny story how Wells Fargo recruited me. But when I was at Wells, that was pretty cushy because you could just sit in a bank branch. I had 5 bank branches and tellers just walk people over asking for a mortgage.
Okay. And how long did this whole banking world last for you?
I think I was there about 2002 and a half till There's this day in October 2008, which you probably remember, which, my pipeline went away and all my loans didn't fund, and I rethought about my whole career.
Uh, so typically, I like to ask everybody, because they don't typically have your roadmap. Um, how did you get to the next level and the next level, and then what did you do to get there? But in your case, I'm assuming working at the bank took away most of the entrepreneurship of it. Like you kind of had to follow their rules, or
You
did you have
say.
autonomy and you were able to create your own business within the business?
Yeah, I mean, just by I think having the volume I had, they kind of let me do whatever I wanted, and I still kind of made my own brand. Like, for example, I had a hot dog, I don't know, a new homeowner hot dog giveaway, and I got like 500 hot dogs on my own pocket. And I think I got 5 or 10 loans just from this event. So I still had the out of the box spirit. Um, I can say this now that I'm not retail, and now that I'm doing all the out of the box loans that I'm doing is I was still kind of learning the out of the box, the SBA, the private money by giving them to my broker buddies, right, and learning that process. So, yeah, I think I was still kind of, well, like I said, I didn't fit the retail model where they want you to do these loans in this box, work these hours, make the calls, make the meetings. I was not wouldn't show up to meetings, right? So I don't think, and hopefully they're not all listening to this right now. I really appreciate the opportunity and where it's gotten me. And when I see my old managers at, let's say, an events or a realtor association event, they congratulate me on where I am now. But I think at the time I was probably like the difficult child in their office.
I bet. All right, so 2002 to 2008, obviously everything went to shit in 2008. Um, doesn't matter what platform you were on,
Yep.
same kind of thing, right? Uh, One thing I've noticed is even today, guys that are in the banking world really struggle with coming over to the broker world because there's no like rules per se. You have to create it yourself, right? Like you have to create how you want to do business. You have to go out and meet new people and you don't have a big name behind you. So it's really all you.
Yep.
They even struggle today. Even good loan officers struggle coming over. You just Did you just go for it, or did you go work for somebody in the broker world before you started your own company?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little, I guess, gap in the story in between that. So when implosion happened in '08, I said, I'm done with mortgage. I had some money saved up. I actually went and traveled the world for 18 months, let the dust settle, we'll say. This, the, pre kids, you beat me to it. Pre kids, pre wife. I was at 30 countries, 18 months, Central, South America, Asia, and never getting back a mortgage. And then I ran out of money, right? I was not making money. I wasn't working. So my phone was still ringing for loans. And I said, oh, I'll just hang my license at a buddy's broker shop. So you kind of, read that in advance. So I worked at a big banker model, which you probably know, probably top 10, and worked for him for 6 to 9 months. And we're still buddies. We're still working together on some deals. And one day he was shopping out or pricing out a loan, helping me structure a loan. And of course, I was giving the office a split. I looked over at his computer and he was pricing it. And I said, why is your pricing 50 bips better than me? And I clicked in my head right there, they're taking a spread margin, whatever you want to call it, off the rate sheet. And I said, well, forget this. I'm going to start my own shop. And that day I signed up for my own broker's license and started the examination and, testing and all that.
I'm just gonna take a wild guess, but you can stop me if I'm wrong. Do you have ADD?
I could think so. I could. I'm a. I don't like being. I'm calm when I'm busy. We'll say.
Well, yeah, so it's interesting because the first time we ever talked on Zoom, I was like, man, that guy is all over the place. Like he has a hard time slowing down, but not in a all over the place where you couldn't focus,
Yeah.
where you were just like, okay, on to the next, on to the next. You were ready to move so quick. I'm just kind of curious now because I don't have it, but
Yeah.
a lot of kids have it, right? They're on medication, all this different thing.
Yeah.
But I kind of wonder if you can just learn how to harness it, you can probably get a ton of stuff done.
I can't. I'm actually trying to have less plate spinning right now because it does get tiring spinning so many plates. Like I open a restaurant in between. I have multiple mortgage companies. I'm doing a lot of different avenues. We have a private money fund in house, so I'm learning at the advice of my loved ones to kind of like take a step back. I'm really focusing back on Searchlight, trying to stop doing all these tertiary. There's so many when you're connected in this business, you get a lot of opportunities and offers and off-market properties, and you can just keep going, right? I mean, that's the thing about our industry is you can work 25 hours a day, and I've gotten much better at cutting the time. I'm done at 8, making my kids pancakes for breakfast, or after this, I'm going surfing and going to the pier and going fishing, right? And my phone's gonna be on airplane mode. So, I mean, airplane mode is my favorite feature on my phone because it'll be ringing nonstop, right? And yeah, just really cutting out my life. Yeah.
One thing I learned a long time ago, I was in the clothing business before the mortgage industry, and I was successful at what I was doing, but I decided to try something else, right? And I put money into a t-shirt company, which is still clothing, but it's different from what I was doing. And then next thing you know, you're diverting your attention. You're in this is to me youth or inexperience or whatever, but you constantly are diverting your attention from what's making you money. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, if I just put that extra time back into the business that's actually working for me, how much more could I do? And I'm going to use the example of flipping houses because this came to me one time, and it was prior to 2008. This time around, not even thinking about it, but prior to 2008, I was like, gosh, I could probably make some extra money flipping. And then, I started really kind of analyzing it all. And of course, living in California, taxes are always a big deal, right? So I started thinking through the finances of, okay, there was this house down the street that came up for sale. I had just finished a big construction project on my house. So I kind of had it dialed, and I thought I could just duplicate it, do it again. And I was like, man, I could make like $80,000 on this flip, and I think I can do it in about 3 to 4 months. Right. So then all of a sudden I started breaking down the numbers. I was like, all right, well, short-term capital gains, because unless I can flip it right away into something else, which wasn't the plan, I'm basically losing half the money out of the gate, right? And then there's the carrying cost and all the other stuff. And I thought through that. And I was like, all right, well, I mean, how much money do I make per month? Is that really where my time should go? Because am I going to have to divert my attention from my calls or from whatever it is, my relationship building that I was doing in the mortgage business? And the answer is absolutely yes. So I started thinking through like, okay, is this a 2 hour a day project, 10 hour a week, or however many it was? And I'm like, if I could take that many hours and say, in addition to what I'm doing, I'm actually going to just sit here and call my past clients for that many hours a day, guaranteed I would make so much more money than what I was going to make on that flip with zero risk, zero financial, putting money in of any kind. And I would be furthering my career as opposed to a one shot deal that just ends when it's over. So, my advice to anybody younger is focus in on what you're doing and spend all your attention on it, aside from a little work life balance, because you got to have that. But stop diverting your attention all the time from stuff.
100%. And I have this talk with other broker owners, whether it's a real estate shop or broker shop. Why do we build these teams? We can take the time we spend managing and helping and business planning and just work on our own book. Like, how much are we really making on the override? And maybe this is a question back to you: is why do we do it? Why do we want to build these teams? We could build a small sub team, just work on our personal business. And I think, okay, what's my override going to be? Okay, how many loans is that per month personally? And why are we doing this? And it's ego, or it's fun working with people, or it's fun seeing people succeed. It is always a give and take on the opportunity cost of having so much time.
Yeah, so that's a good question, right? And I went through this before I started trying to build ethos and go for it. I had always made the decision to work on and focus on my personal production because I made so much more money doing that than having a bunch of loan officers that somehow always created problems, right? And I was like, man, I'm so good at this trade, like me doing it, and I don't have these kind of problems. I don't want them. And then I started hiring some people, and I'm like, I'm inheriting these problems that I don't even have in my own life, right? Like I'm bringing them in. So a coach one time told me, it was Todd Duncan. He's like, sometimes that saying, keep it small, keep it all, goes a long way. And I had decided to do that, but then ultimately time passed and I didn't want to grind on the loan anymore, right? I didn't want to hunt the way and let me back up on that because I think there's a piece, right? Doing the loans one thing. For certain people, you're probably the same way. The hunt is actually kind of the exciting part. But when you're hunting, it's almost like a different mindset. Like I remember one time when I stopped, right? There's a period where it's like, okay, we're not making the kind of money we were used to. And I had to tell my wife, no more spending here, no more spending there until I finish building this out, right? And she's like, why don't you just do loans again? And I had to like talk her through that, right? And then I said, you don't get it. If I start doing loans again, my mind completely changes.
Yep.
I will be 100% focused on the hunt and you're not going to get me the way you want me because I'm back to this and it's a different mindset. So we change completely. And at some point you get better and you build a team and it becomes easier and all that. But man, the hunt is real.
It is, and that's why where we're at, right? Is because we're successful self-originators, and maybe we want to teach other people that. Maybe we're tired of doing that. Maybe we want to give our business to somebody else or build a small sub team, right? So there's different reasons, but it's a constant conversation topic with other broker owners with 30, 50, 60 agents underneath them, because it does come with, like you said, that unknown headaches, and it's both business, personal, psychologist, business planning, and we're not going to get into specific details because these people are probably listening to us, but it's interesting because it almost turns into I say it's our team, but it's almost a family, right? So someone, even if people die, people get divorced, people go through personal, medical issues. I mean, there's, you're there and you're part of someone's life, and you're affording them their lifestyle by, you know, by working together.
Yeah, I know for me, I stopped originating. Uh, Not that stuff doesn't still come in all the time, but somebody else does it all, and I'm just putting all my focus, 100% of my focus on trying to build out the platform so that a first of all, a loan officer, I'm trying to make this conversion from loan officer into mortgage advisor because it's a higher end, person. And then those problems of the typical loan officer start to go away when you start thinking more like a mortgage advisor and a higher end person and like like you're really self-employed, like this is your book of business, this is your brand.
Yep.
And I'm putting all my focus in not only building out the platform but teaching the mortgage advisors how to do business the right way. And I feel like without me having to do the loans and all that, now I can do away with some of those stupid problems because I'm teaching them. Just like I had to teach myself and my realtors and everybody I was working with before how to do things properly. Now I'm teaching the mortgage advisors how to do it properly so that they can grow and have a successful business, right? And
Yeah.
and ultimately, I don't know. I mean, you're probably a lot younger than me. I'm 54, so I'm just kind of I don't want to do the loans anymore, right? I don't
Yeah.
want to tell somebody what their payment is if they put another $10,000
Yeah. Yeah.
down. Anyways, listen,
Which happened to me yesterday when I was in an Uber, and I had my mortgage calculator in my backpack, and then took a picture of it and sent to the realtor because I don't even have an app on my phone. I can pull out the calculator. I still use it.
so I want to get back to you, and I want to get back to how like your journey, right? Your big steps of how you got to where you're at because you've done a lot of business. You've been very successful, and it doesn't just happen. So you cut your teeth with cold calling, which as much as I hate it, I do think it's probably the best thing that anybody could ever do to really teach them fast and grow that thick skin. And if you don't have it, you'll phase out quickly, right? Like,
You can't be introverted in this industry.
yeah, it's tough. So you're now self-employed. You got your own brokerage. Um, I still want to find out like how you made that shift. I want to find out how you did business. Where did you get your business? Were you still cold calling? Were you advertising? Were you out making relationships with realtors and financial planners? What was your thing?
I mean, a couple things. I mean, I had a pretty nice book of business from the retail world, right? I was doing over 100, 150 million a year. So I did keep a double CRM. So I did take a lot of these clients with me. So I told everybody that I was somewhere else. I was, starting my own shop. So I did get a lot of business from that. A lot of my business, which is why Searchlight has, we do all the standard A paper, government purchase refi stuff. I don't always push that because you probably have 10 cousins that do the same thing. The reason we kind of got into the out of the box solutions is that a lot of my retail contacts, back to their having a small box they work out of, whether the B of A, Wells, PNC, US Bank, they need a solution if that client didn't fit in that box. And that turned into me. So the river started flowing the other way as far as the lead flow. And, when you're one of the three-person shop, you don't have to do that many loans to, cover the bills. So, it started off slow like anything else, but I'm really big on routine. We can get more into that, but just do your monthly mailer every month, be in front of people. How many people you tell what you do? This was still, I didn't have kids yet. So I'm gonna do 2 coffees a week, 2 lunches a week, 2 networking events. I was out and about. I shoeboxes of cards. I actually found this guy online that 5 cents a card. He would mass scan. I just had probably 3 thousands of business cards. And then you just add the people to your marketing list, your spam list, whatever you want to call it. And just, once a month you say, here I am. And it's front of face, front of mind. And just doing those little things over the years, people, I'm on affiliate relationships now with brokers, with real estate shops. People know me as the out of the box person. I just have I have 94,000 people on my mailer.
Wow. Past clients, realtors,
Yeah.
financial planners, everybody.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get a little more tactical, right? I mean, people listening wanna. Some of them are like, "Hey, great story, just really enjoy the motivation, all that." Others are like, "Yeah, but teach me how you did it. How did you do it?" Right? You added 94,000 people. That doesn't just come with a little bit of luck. That doesn't just come with shaking a few hands and collecting business cards. You're being very intentional. You said it. 2 coffees, lunches, networking events. But the networking events, fine. Those are easy, right? You just kind of find out where they're at. You go, either you got a personality or you don't, and you either meet people or you don't, right? But how do you get the coffees? How do you get the lunches? How do you get people to want to do this with you? And then how do you get them to like you and trust you to actually give you the business?
Yeah. I mean, we can start with the liking and trust. I mean, liking and trusting is being a person of your word, communication, and follow up, right? I mean, I've heard this before. I don't know where I heard from, but like 90% of winning a deal is just answering your phone. I'll call you back same day. If it's 8 o'clock, are you still available? I just got your voicemail. If you wait till the next day, they're shopping you overnight, right? So time kills deals. We all know that. Just being a person of your word, following up. If it's bad news, call them. Don't disappear.
Bad, bad news only gets worse the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just little things like that where, you got to be just 10% better than the next person. And it just accumulates over the years.
So that's an interesting stat because 10% is not much, but 10% is all you need, huh?
Yeah, it's a flywheel effect, or there's always books about it, right? But I've learned a lot from other successful people, and I worked with this good friends with this one, another competition, we'll call it. But he had a thing like if you don't hit your 20 power partners every week, your week's not over. Doesn't matter if it's Friday at 7 o'clock. That your week isn't done. So if you have your minimum, you have to be the hardest on yourself because we're self-employed. No one's going to tell you what time to wake up, what time to get to work, how late to you work till. So if you have your minimum expectations of yourself, I do my mailer once a month. I do X coffees, meetings, open houses,
And
whatever.
you still do all that.
I don't really do the broker tour open house thing anymore. I have enough trusted realtors. We can talk about that secondary, but now I'm going for more affiliate office relationships more than one-off realtors. But the point is, you give yourself, you know, if you say, okay, I only made 15 out of 20 calls this week, all that's next week, it's not going to happen. It just rolls over. So you got to be hard on yourself, not hard on yourself, but you have to be your own, accountability partner, or find somebody you trust. And if you say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, you do X, Y, Z. It, Even if, let's say your pipeline 60 loans and you don't have time to do your mailer, that's when you want to do your mailer, because our pipelines are 60, 90-day turn times. And great, you're busy this month, but in 90 days, your pipeline's going to be zero if you don't keep doing those basic things.
So that's interesting. I'd say that's something worthy of talking about. A lot of people as they're coming up in the ranks, right? They're just hustling, they're doing everything, and then they get busy. And the number one thing that always stops is the prospecting. Because now they're because whatever they did worked, and now they got so much business, they're trying to just get it done, right? And they forget that they got to keep prospecting. So I always want to kind of hammer on the point that their job is not actually doing loans, right?
Yeah.
Their job is getting the loans. Because no matter how good you are at doing loans, if your phone doesn't ring, you're not going to make any money. So so let me ask you, going back to your journey. I mean, and you got ADD. I mean, maybe you were just doing it all. Were you doing all of it, or were you smart enough to hire somebody pretty quick and
Yeah.
section off some of the business?
I started outsourcing pretty quickly. I do a lot of business planning. I don't manage my team. That's not my job, but I do business planning. I'm available. I'll talk through a marketing plan. I'll look at your calendar. I'm there to assist if you need content, whatnot. I'll hold your hand. But what I've found is I'm an open book, and I'll tell everyone on this podcast. This is what I do. I'm not smarter than you. I don't work more hours than you. I just have a routine, my basic things that I have to get done, and I just do them. And they say like discipline is freedom. I think by just putting I put things on the calendar. So I'll say monthly mailer first Tuesday of the month, and I put it on my calendar on repeat. And my Tuesday's not done until that mailer's done, right? So same thing with my team when I meet with them and do business planning, business coaching, and they say I'm too busy to do mailer, and they're doing one loan a month. I'm saying, well, what are you doing all day? Like, and the good people, they're hustling, they're working, they're smart, but I have to do the routine, or else it'll be too frazzled, and I'll just fall behind on stuff, and it won't come to fruition. And like I said, in 60, 90 days, the pipeline goes away, my phone stops ringing.
So let's focus on that for a second. Routine. You brought that up a few times, and
Yeah,
and I'm a big believer in routine.
yeah.
Uh, what is, out of curiosity, what is your routine? And let's just start with, you know, well, wherever you think it should start. To me, everybody thinks it starts in the morning. To me, it starts at what time I go to bed.
Yeah,
Because if I don't go to bed at the right time, then I can't wake up at the right time.
yeah.
Right. So what is your routine?
Well, I'll start with the morning, not to kibosh what you said, but I think if you start early in the morning, which I do, if you look at my monthly mailer, I kind of put a family angle in it. It says, "Family, this is the reason I wake up at 5 a.m. and work every day." And if you wake up at 4:50 and you're tired by 9:30, right? If you stay up, if you wake up at 8, you're not gonna be tired till 11. Then it's a constant thing.
So
So
so every time there's somebody that says I'm just not an early person,
yeah,
I'm like, give me a week and I'll make you an early person,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that you're gonna wake up at 4 or 5, whatever it is, and
100%, yeah.
and after a few days, you're gonna be so damn tired, you're gonna be going to bed at the right time.
Exactly. So even on, I don't want to say this is vacation because I'm doing some work stuff such as this. This morning I got up, 5:45. I do my lemon water, big cup of lemon water, cold water on the face, and then I sit down with my cup of tea. I'm not a coffee guy, and sit with a notepad and write down my to-do list, trying to not to get more than 10 items, but just the 10 most important things I want to accomplish that day. I mean, even today I put like surf on there. It doesn't have to be work stuff. And I try not to look at my phone or email yet, because instead of you managing your day starts managing you, and you become reactive to the inbounds. Especially like us broker owners. I mean, people don't believe it. I get 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 emails a day. And if I plug in, I probably got 200 plus emails at 6 a.m. And yeah, and I'll just start hitting them. And then what happens? You send an email, you get an email back. Was it for every email you get like 1.2 emails back? So just really have that morning routine. I have a support team, some assistants, compliance officer, and I like to just kind of set them up for their day, whether it's pipeline report or follow up with his client. And then I try to unplug for a bit. And I've learned that if I just sit there and push and prod, not only do you just bug people, but stuff won't get done because now they're replying to you. So I'll make the kids breakfast, I'll get my workout in, or my morning walk with the dog. maybe unplug for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then get back in front of the work thing, before lunch and see what's been accomplished, see what's falling through the cracks. So that's like my morning routine, just to preface that. And it's really stepping back and you pay people to do their job, letting them do their job.
That's interesting. So you actually don't start working until later in the day.
Well, I mean, I plug in after my morning routine for probably around between 6 and 7:30. Then I'll make the kids breakfast. So I do set up the team. I do see if there's any major fires. We have this deal that was supposed to get docs out yesterday. Where is it at? I know the important things, but I'm not gonna start hitting my emails probably till 9:30 or 10, because hopefully the people that know they own these items will get it done. And it doesn't do anything for me to say forward them an email and say, "Hey, did you get this email?" They're already copied on,
Yeah.
because they'll get to it when they get in.
Yeah. And do you work remote or do you go into the office?
I did work remote 5 years. I just finally got an office last October, just for, of course, I have a team in the South Bay, like San Jose area, so it's good to be in person again. But really, it's to not bring so much work into the house, for the family, for my wife, because it's you can say it's easy, but if you have a bad day, you lose a big deal. You can't open the door, walk out, and say, "Hey, family, nothing bad just happened." You sometimes need a separation. And even if my assistants say they don't need help, it's amazing. And I'm like, I'm available. We chat. You can call me, you can email me. But when you're in the office with agents, it's amazing. They'll come up to you like, "Can I talk through this scenario? Let's talk marketing. Let's go to lunch." And just being around people. I mean, it's healthy to be around people, because in this business, you can be pretty behind a computer all day, and it's good to have interactions and keep the juices flowing. I mean, I'm still learning from my agents as well, which might be another good reason to have people around you, is to, they have ideas that maybe I didn't think of, or events, or whatnot.
So let's get tactical, right? Like let's give some true good advice to somebody that is I don't want to say starting out brand new, right? Like they're doing okay. They're maybe stuck at like 15 million a year. And in some cases, I guess that's a lot depending on where you are in the
Yeah.
country, but whatever, right?
And this market.
Yeah, let's call it 20 to 30 units a year. In a lot of cases, that's a decent living for a lot of people, right? But they desire to get more, but they're stuck. Um, how do you, when you're coaching people, how do you get them out of that? How do you get them to that next level? Obviously, you're going to ask them a bunch of questions and analyze their business, right? But in general, do you have your like go-to things?
I mean, a big thing that I say is it costs money to make money. So I'm a big marketing person. I mean, it's people have different businesses, right? Different pipeline workflows. Some people join the affiliation groups and membership chairs and get relationships that way. Some people go to the open house tours and shake realtors' hands and meet people in person, right? Some people do the online marketing, buy data, buy leads, etc. I've found that I like to do all three, right? I want to put all my eggs in one basket. So I do have my long-term relationships, I call them power partners. So you get your attorneys, CPAs, realtors, financial planners, or even with our out of the box stuff, residential agents can send us all their out of the box, commercial stuff. Maybe they don't know how to source or place, right? And then, the other basket is the, lead buy. I mean, I used to do the lead buy in between all this. We haven't got through my full story yet, but I had a fintech company that I used to fill the pipeline. So I had a 50, 60,000 a month lead buy. I used to do the Google AdWords myself, fill the pipeline. So I have a background on that, but now I outsource all that because I don't want to be looking at keyword costs and pay per click. So, but I always tell my agents, okay, how much you spend a month right now on your mailer? $50. Okay. Well, you don't go from $50 to 15,000 overnight. You go from 50 to 250 to 500 to 1,000, right? So reinvest was 10, 20% of your money, but so many agents are afraid to reinvest. And especially right now in this lower volume market, I'm finding my ad costs, whether it's click, leads, etc., is probably one fourth what it was. So this is when I double and quadruple down on leads. and maybe my pull through isn't as good, but now I'm building my Rolodex with people with the heartbeats that may buy a home or may refi, and your ad cost goes much farther because everyone else is pulling back. So really, it's just following systems. I'm a systems routine, right? And then putting money back into your business. You know, there's just so many options out there right now.
What about a CRM? I mean, obviously you have one with 94,000 people and with, the kind of marketing you do and all that. I've always said if I could go back and do one thing differently, it would be to just keep a really good CRM,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, a lot of times we bring people on and it's like, okay, what's the CRM? And we just need the list, right? And they think they have a great list. It's like you realize all you have is their name and phone number, or their email
Yeah.
address, and maybe just their first name, right? Like you don't even have how how anal are you at your CRM?
Well, you're gonna love this answer, but my CRM is a cluster. It's a complete mess.
It is okay.
Um, my marketing person, I have a couple, I have marketing consultant, business coach. The first thing he says is you need to stride this between consumers, business, power partners, realtors. And I'm like, it would take me a year of doing nothing but going through and looking through these people. I don't even know where some people came from, right? So to go through this and clean it up. So what we came up with, instead of me losing more hair than I already have and going through my CRM, is I do more of a general message, because what I found is, like, let's say my mailer, for example, it's not say I don't have to go to a realtor and say I can close in 17 days, or go to a borrower and say best rates in town, and or go to a power partner and say I can help your probate case, right? I say I do loans, and I changed my motto to the loan guy, because people need loans. We're not selling anything; it's a service, and it's time and place, right? So I tell my team this story all the time. Let's say someone needs financing every 10 years. It used to be 7, but now it's 10 with the rate environment. So if I have 90,000 people on my list, let's use 100,000 for round number's sake. That means 10,000 people on my list that year, that year are signing loan docs. That's 300 people a day on my list that are signing loan documents. It's a numbers game, right?
Yeah.
And whether they go with me or somebody else, I have to be in front of them. And I've lost deals before where there's a longtime borrower, this and that, and or even a family member, a cousin-in-law, right? And you're like, and then just your Thanksgiving, and they say, "Oh, I just closed on a house." And you're like, "I'm in loans." They're like, "Oh, I forgot. Yeah, you're in loans." And I'm like, "How'd you forget?" Right? So it's just like it's timing, right? And just getting in front of the people at the right time. And people may not reply to you for 7 years, and you're like, they didn't like my post or da, da, da. And then all of a sudden they're like, "I need a loan yesterday," right? It's all just telling how many people what you do and reminding them that you're there. Hey, I'm still doing it, you know?
So I got this question for you. I think I'm going to really enjoy hearing you answer it. So if I picked you up right now and dropped you off somewhere in the United States and said, "Hey, you have all the knowledge you have. You only have a little bit of money, enough to just kind of get by, do a few things for marketing or whatever, and a cheap place to live. And your family has to stay where they're at, and you can't see them or talk to them until you hit 100 million in
Is this
sales."
undercover billionaire?
Kind of, yeah, yeah.
Sounds familiar.
And the question is what would you do? How would you get to 100 million? You don't know anybody there.
Yeah.
You have all your knowledge, but
Do I have my database?
and you don't have your database.
I mean, it's funny because I love cooking and I want to be a chef, but I owned a restaurant and I sold it. And I love cooking for my family and friends, but I would definitely never do that again. So that one's out of the equation, right? I mean, sales is really the best way to make money. Um, it depends on where I would be, but I'd find something that need to be sold. And
Well, we're talking loans, right?
oh,
Like,
okay. Just loans. Yeah, I mean, I would just start going to events. I would. One thing I'm gonna say is I said I was confident as far as like calling and having thick skin, but I really have. I really don't care what people think when I ask for business. So I've gotten deals. I'll be walking on the beach and I'll see an open house sign on a commercial building. I'll take a picture of it. I'll email that person, call them. I'll say, "Hey, I saw your listing. I'm a loan person. You want to get coffee? You need a loan?" If someone sends me a flyer in the mail, never even heard from this realtor. Thanks for the flyer in the mail. I get my UCR alumni magazine, and this person's a financial advisor, and they're an alumni. Hey, we're both UCR, so I just have, I won't say no shame, but they're going to work with somebody. If they don't know me, they're not going to work with me. So I reach out. So I'd go through. I'd get the luxury home book from the little corner stand newspaper thing. Go through that. Just call those people. I do loans. Who do you work with? What's the last loan you turned down on your desk? Right. It's just telling people what you do and getting in front. And yeah.
So your technique would be kind of back to the basics of getting back on the phone and trying to get a face-to-face appointment with them if possible, right? And that goes back to, I think, your first initial cold calling thing where, hey, that got you to where you got to, and it gave you the thick skin, so you're not afraid of doing it. So I would say the majority of people, I guess we're motivated by fear or success, right? But a lot of times fear is the bigger one, and people don't do something even if they know they can be successful. They're more scared, right, than what could be. So you don't have this fear gene.
No, I mean, I can go to a top realtor and ask for business, and they can ignore me and move on, right? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I mean, people, when it comes down to it, we're all just people. I don't get starstruck. I mean, much. I don't know who it would be, but we all wake up the same way. We all put our pants on the same way. This is what I offer. If you don't want it, if you have somebody better, great. If you want to see what I can offer, great. Here's what I can do. And just using it, it's kind of easier when you're the broker owner on a website and you have all these loans under your belt and you can give stories and experience and talk the talk and walk the walk, right? It's tougher, and maybe you'll get into this next. If your first day on the job, you just pass your NMLS test, your fingerprints, right? And you're like, now what? But at this point, I'll talk to any billionaire, yada, yada. I mean, I'll reach out. I was like watching the Sirhan guy, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna reach out to him and see if he needs some loans. Like, what? Why not? Well, if he's he ignore me, I don't know. Like, he could say yes. Then I'll fly to New York. Like, why not?
Out of curiosity, how long do you think it would take you to be able to slam a few loans?
I bet it'd be pretty. I'd submit a loan in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you gonna like kidnap me right now and throw me in a car blindfolded or?
Yeah. I mean, so it's interesting too, because I'm thinking, I thought about a week before you get a loan as well, just because
Yeah.
of your personality. But I'm wondering how many hours a day would that take? Like, what would your day look like?
Well, it depends on where I mean, if I was by the beach, I might, have some more fun things to do. But if I was in the middle of
Indiana.
Indiana, and no kids or, wife, I'd be working 20 hours a day.
Yeah, and it would just be all sales, right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I can tell stories, but I think I was up at Sugar Bowl in Tahoe skiing, and how many people can be at a bar at noon, and you're sitting at a bar at noon on a weekday. What do you do for a living? The guy's a realtor. Connected with him, right? So just being out and about. I mean, in cycling groups. If you have a $15,000 road bike and you're cycling at 10 a.m. on a Monday, you probably own your own house. So, it's just getting out there. I mean, meeting people, shaking hands.
couple quick questions. You said something earlier, and I'm just kind of curious. I never got the chance to ask you. You said you sold candy, I think, in school, right?
Yeah.
What grade was that in?
7th grade.
7th grade. So
They squashed that pretty fast.
So funny story. I sold candy in the 7th grade. That's why I wanted to
Good
ask
thing you were in my neighborhood, big competition.
Oh yeah. Now at the time I could go to the grocery store, candy bars were like 25 cents. And I just would buy various candies, and then I always pulled it out right before the lunch period. So I think lunch was like, I don't know, fifth period or something, or fourth
Yeah.
period. So I'd pull it out the period before, where everybody started kind of getting hungry and thinking about
Before they
it,
spent their lunch money.
before they spent their lunch money. And I'd sell it for, I think it was 75 cents, right? Still under $1 type of thing.
Yeah.
And I did pretty well with that for a while.
Yeah.
So an entrepreneur is always an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite book?
So funny you asked what favorite book was. I actually brought a copy for you. Tell me if you've read it.
I have not.
Oh, I love Ryan Holiday. So stoicism, doing the right thing when nobody's watching, right? Living a good life. So obstacles the way. Great in this industry because we constantly have obstacles, right? Everybody knows closer to a yes. And it gives really good historical stories, life stories, famous people stories about things they overcame. So I'll sign it before I leave, but the obstacles the way. I'm not the author, but there you go. I'd highly recommend it. He has a whole series, but that's my favorite.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then, do you have a favorite quote?
So yeah, it's funny you asked that. My favorite quote right now, and this may be another one from the same author, is "Discipline is freedom." And people always have this connotation or idea that I'm so disciplined. I get up 4:45, and I work out this way, and I stop at 5, and people think that is handcuffs. But when it comes down to it, having the discipline, I'll put in my, if I want to go surfing with my wife and do lunch on Wednesday, I put 11 to 1, I'm booked, right? And even if I get a $10 million client, I can only meet noon on Wednesday. I'll be like, I'm already booked, right? I put those in my calendar. And yeah, I mean, we have to be disciplined in this business, disciplined in life, whether it's health, whether it's family. And, that gives you the freedom to have the free time, the freedom to succeed, the freedom to have your own time, to enjoy life.
I'm going to look that up real quick. That was Jocko.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah. I got my kids all the Jocko. They have the Jocko Kids books. I don't know if you've seen those. Oh, my son loves those. I'd highly recommend. My son just turned 9, and yeah, he's like saying quotes from that book now.
I got 2 boys, 10 and 13, and I really want to get them kind of like in this mindset. I'm gonna go find that.
100%. I recommend it, please. Yeah.
Cool. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being just transparent about everything, and I hope to get to know you more as we go as well. And guys, if you want to look him up at all, he's on all the social media. Is it just your name, or what's your social media stuff?
Yeah, I think Instagram is the Chris Piro. Facebook is Chris Piro, Piro. You can find me on the website, searchlightlending.com. And I'm an open book. Like I said, if you want I have my year planning guide. I have my daily planning guide. I have my business plan. I'm open for conversation. So happy to discuss anything to make your life better, make you more money.
That's super generous of you, and thank you for that. And if you guys want to look them up, please do. And guys, we are here to empower, equip, and educate you the way lending should be done by the best in the business. So if you like this episode and you want to share it, we'd appreciate it, because sharing is caring. And do the whole comment for us. It helps us on the social media algorithms. And then make sure you share it. Tell all your friends, and we'll see you on the next one.